Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my latest video. For those who are new, I like to make these little videos about films I enjoy and want to share. If you like what you see here, please give me a thumbs up and consider both subscribing and hitting that little bell icon to get notifications when I put up new content, which is typically once or twice a week. Also be sure to stick around to the end and share both this video and channel around, as it really helps out quite a bit. Okay. Let's move on to what this entry is about, which is where I decided to take another trip back to the 80s like I did last week with Peggy Sue Got Married, but this time for something quite different. This is for the 1988 film Vibes, starring Jeff Goldblum, Cyndi Lauper, Peter Falk, and the presumed, and at this point sadly expected to be late, Julian Sands, the synopsis for which is as follows. Two psychics are hired to find the location of a lost Incan city located somewhere in the Ecuadorian mountains that is said to hide a great treasure. Well, that does eventually come out in the story, but what we kind of start off with is just an opening showing the discovery in these mountains, and then, we kind of are in New York, bringing us to kind of introduce the rest of our characters at this center that is studying psychic phenomena of various kinds, a center where the character played by Julian Sands works, and characters played by Jeff Goldblum and Cyndi Lauper partake in these psychic tests. For Goldblum, for his character, he's able to hold an object and tell you everything about it. It's like who held it last, what it was used for, who has come in contact with it, and when and where. He also gets really emotionally drawn into what that object is and what it was used for, so it kind of emotionally affects him. Now, for Cyndi Lauper's character, she basically has this spirit guide that kind of came to her after an accident left her in a coma for a few weeks when she was younger. She can get, guidance from this spirit who can also channel other spirits through her. So let's say she can use this guide to get info from your dead mother, or to tell you which horse is going to win a race, which actually there is a weird scene where she's at a horse track helping a friend of hers win, who's actually played by a very young Steve Buscemi. So it's kind of a surprise to see him pop up in there. But anyways, they are recruited by Peter Falk's character, who's been kind of spying on this center to help him track down what he says is his lost son in Ecuador. And of course, he promises to pay them after kind of convincing Cyndi Lauper's character to go along with this. And then, of course, she has to convince Jeff Goldblum's character. So one thing kind of leads to another, and they head down to investigate with him. This is where it eventually comes out that he was lying about his son. This is all about a treasure, as the synopsis says. As typical for an adventure mystery from the 80s, we have these competing characters trying to get to this treasure and all the misadventures that they get in, within their travels. But all that aside, where this one really stands out is the chemistry between Goldblum and Lauper, both as actors, in their scenes, as well as how their characters were written. We spend a lot of this film getting to know them by them getting to know each other. And while at times this might seem to take a while and maybe drag a little bit, especially if all you wanted to know about is this treasure and what's going to happen, I feel actually that this helps the story along, since they began as strangers, and we need to believe that they will eventually care about each other and have each other's backs as we approach the more dangerous parts, toward this climax of this film. So none of that, character building had actually bothered me. Their pairing and the banter between them was excellent, a lot of really funny stuff. And it's also where I feel that this film really shines, beyond what we usually see in some of the typical adventure-based films. Even Peter Falk's character, who kind of, comes across great as like this third person in their group, seemingly improvising a lot of his ramblings and mixing this subtle bit of comedy thrown in there just as much as a really in-your-face kind of stuff. He was a great addition, a great character in this. So we have Falk being a bit shady, and a bit weird. Jeff Goldblum being more centered, a little bit more cautious of a character. And Cyndi Lauper's character being a bit more eccentric and a bit of a train wreck in some ways. So we get a really good mix of characters in kind of like our trio who's going out for this treasure. And upon rewatching this recently, and really paying closer attention than I probably did in previous years, since the last time I saw this was about 2 years ago, and before that I'd probably seen it 3 or 4 times in the late 80s, early 90s. This time, paying that extra attention, I kind of took it all in very differently, and I, really, really enjoyed it much more than I had previously. So by the time we get to, the treasure, which is, related to an ancient psychic energy that people are trying to tap into, I felt much more connected with these characters, having put off the treasure expectation and the adventure side of things, and instead just focused on the character building that they were doing. Because like I said, both for us as viewers, getting to know them better, as well as the characters building that they know themselves better. So this way their connection actually feels much more natural in the story. Nothing feels forced. And I enjoyed it, like I said, probably more than I had in previous viewings. And I really feel that, if you can track this one down, give it a shot. It is definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of any of these actors. If you like, 80s action adventure films like Romancing the Stone, or if you found, like psychic phenomena to be an interesting topic. But yeah, and speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out this latest little short video of mine for Vibes from 1988, which at the time of this video is available on Amazon Prime. It's also available for paid rental, and I believe there might be an ad-supported version of it on YouTube somewhere. So, go ahead and check it out if it sounds interesting to you. So thanks for sticking around to the end, and I will see you